I'm blah, 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 blah. I'm going to do that again. Welcome to the official, unofficial Sea of Thieves podcast, a podcast dedicated to Sea of Thieves and other rare games, but mainly Sea of Thieves. Today we are discussing part 3 of our Pirates Life Tall Tale discussion. This means we will be discussing the final Tall Tale, but we also give our final thoughts and opinions about Season 3 as a whole. And because solo slooping isn't advisable, I am once again assisted by a wonderful guest.
Hi guys, it's AShinyRay again. Pretty much going to be co-host of this podcast now, the way things are going. I'm a Sea of Thieves YouTuber. I like lore, I like tall tales, and I like being on this podcast, so that's all you really need to know about me.
It would be a surprise if I have another guest now. Like, oh man, what happened to AShinyRay?
The fans need continuity. Like, who's this guy? He hasn't discussed the first 4 tall tales with you. We need continuity, Cozzy.
That's true. Plus your voice is nice too. You gave me a compliment when we were streaming, but your voice is also pretty nice. So that's good for our listeners, I think.
It's a very smooth podcast.
Indeed. So before we dive in, I would like to remind you guys that you can submit your own input for these podcast episodes by joining the Discord. Some subscribers did post some questions for this episode, and we will do our best to answer them during our ramblings. So yeah, a link to the Discord will be in the description. Let's start discussing Tall Tale 5, and after that we'll do the other Season 3 stuff. So in our last adventure, in Tall Tale 4, we failed to destroy the ritual. It was a bit unclear what the ritual was, but apparently Davy Jones was trying to use the lockbox in his ritual, which is called the Ritual of Thieves, so he would be able to move freely between worlds. So I guess he just wanted a way to not be dependent on the lockbox, but we can discuss that a bit later. So Davy Jones wants to be the new ferryman to take over this place. He wants to have control of the Sea of the Damned, but to do that, he needs to destroy the ferryman first. And to destroy the ferryman, you need to destroy the Sea of the Damned. That's just how it works, or how I read it on the internet. So how is he going to do this? I don't really know, but he needs this big spire. To find it, we use the dagger from before to locate this new location. We have this big epic battle there, defeating ships and eventually siren statues. We do this with the help of the Black Pearl and some other pirates. All of them are in ghost form, by the way. Eventually, Calypso will strike the spire with lightning, because that's Calypso. She likes doing that, allowing us to go inside. Once we reach the top, we find someone from Jack's past standing there next to the dead man's chest. Something that I still find very confusing, but again, we will probably discuss this. In the chest, there is the other locket. We pick it up. Calypso strikes the tower yet again, and we prepare to fight one final, I want to say epic, but it's a bit anticlimactic battle against the Flying Dutchman. We win, obviously. The ship sinks, and the Black Pearl, now not in ghost form anymore, takes its place. On the ship, the ferryman makes an appearance, thanking us for a job well done. Jack leaves the Sea of Thieves, but promises us we will see him again. And George and Rose really want to be in the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie, so they travel back with him. And that's it. That's Tall Tale 5. Did I miss anything, Ray?
No, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Very, very well done on that summary there.
Thank you very much. So let's dive into the questions surrounding this Tall Tale. So I was a bit confused about the ritual. Is it how I explained it in my summary? Is that correct?
That's how I interpret it. It seems like he is using that lockbox to bridge the gap between the worlds so he can travel freely. And I guess we sort of see the repercussions of this in the end of the Tall Tale, where people's souls start leaking out. When you're going up the spire, you do see people standing there as ghosts holding candles. And we get journals of people who have agreed to join Davy Jones's cause. So it seems like he's merging the Sea of Thieves and the Sea of the Damned together, but it's not really said if this is his intention, but it could be a byproduct of the ritual.
Yeah, it's weird because I've said it before, Tall Tale 5 is probably the shortest out of all these new Tall Tales, but it is the most confusing for some reason.
Yeah, it sort of feels like this is a climactic battle, and they wanted to shove as much stuff as possible in there. I'm not saying it's a bad tall tale or anything. It just it lacks a lot of exposition that the other tall tales gave us.
Yeah, for sure. And for a final Telltale, I think it's certainly nice because you have a big battle, I mean, lots of ships, lots of characters. I mean, it's textbook standard for a final battle, and I do like that. So what is this Spire, by the way? Who created it?
So it looks like the sirens have created it, and when he performs the ritual, it causes it to rise out the sea. But it's never explained why he needs the spire to be a thing. Maybe it's an anchor point for the Sea of the Damned or something like that. But I can't remember a single time in the Tall Tale it tells you exactly why the spire needs to be the spire. Does that make sense?
Well, no, it doesn't. But I mean, it makes sense that is confusing, and I don't really know why the Spire is necessary. But I guess you need to have something to have as a final, final point together. I don't know. It's a bit confusing, to be honest.
It's just that when you're climbing it, it's obviously got the bits of ship and stuff in it, which is signature siren structure. But it just never sort of it doesn't even it's not even designed like the Sea of the Damned. Like if it was something like I don't know, if it was like a black rock with all that foliage that we see in the first Tall Tale, and it's got loads of ghosts on it, and there's like some ghostly parts missing, that would have been a more concise aesthetic there, and it'd just be like a Spire of the Damned then, rather than a Siren Spire. I think that's something that they would need to explain either in the future, or they should have done it during the Tall Tale, or at least afterwards, after it finished.
Yeah, maybe they still want to emphasize the fact that they're still working together with the sirens, and that's why they chose to do this Spire. The same with the mermaid statues, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. I suppose maybe it's also telling us that the Siren Queen might not actually be dead, hence why the Alliance is still kicking.
Yeah, maybe. Again, it would be nice to have some definitive answers. I do really hope there's some document that eventually will arise explaining everything a bit more clearly.
Mm.
So, what do the giant mermaid statues do? Because eventually they will pop out of the ocean, but what is the goal of them?
I think they're protecting the Spire, from what I can tell. They might be giving the Spire some sort of protected aura, because when we destroy the statues, Calypso then can strike the Spire with lightning, allowing us to get inside. So it looks like their power was actually protecting her from doing that, hence why we needed to destroy them.
Yeah, that's true. That's correct. At least we at least we figured that out.
Yeah.
Um,
We're doing a lot of the heavy lifting here.
I mean, I guess there's a perfect explanation for all of this. We just missed it, I guess. But overall, I'm still happy you're here because to me, this especially the first time I played, it was really confusing. This Telltale. And another thing that confused me actually was the guy standing next to the chest all the way at the top. Like, who is that guy?
It's Cutler Beckett, or Lord Beckett, as it were, in the second film. Um, if you've not seen the films, he's basically the actual antagonist. He's the leader of the East India Trading Company, and he's actually explained by that he's next to the chest in the last journal, where he's talking about moments before his death. I don't think he realizes he actually died. He doesn't remember dying anyway. Um, so he's standing next to the chest because his last sort of goal in Pirates of the Caribbean was to defend the chest and use it to control Davy Jones. But because he's been brought back in ghost form, he doesn't realize he's dead. This is also sort of hinted at by the guy who gets hit by the cannonball in Tall Tale 3 while he's in the prison cell. He joins the Dark Brethren, but he doesn't remember dying. He just remembers being in a cell. And Davy Jones tells him it's a dream, so he might have done the same to Lord Beckett.
Interesting. Actually, that does make sense. But that also means we need to assume that if you die in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, you also come to the Ferry of the Damned, or
Well, maybe that's why we see Barbosa in the Sea of the Damned, because he died in Pirates of the Caribbean, and he's he's in the Sea of the Damned for us, isn't he?
yeah, yes. But I was interpret that as being a memory of Jack, but could be both. Could be both.
It becomes an issue when you have like these established rules set out, especially when they're revealed in Tall Tale 5 about people dying in the Pirates of the Caribbean universe can come back in the Sea of Thieves one. But then you include characters like Barbossa, and you still have to question: is it a memory or is he actually in the Sea of the Damned?
Yeah, that's true. Weird. Oh well, and you kind of answered the other question too. Like, why is that locker important? Because in the chest, the dead man's chest, there's a locker. What is it, locker?
It's one half of the locket that Davy Jones and Calypso exchanged before he was charged with his duty to ferry the souls of the dead to the afterlife. Um, and he's obviously kept it as a memento to remind him of Calypso. I don't know why he does it, because every time he plays the music, he gets really sad, or he gets really angry if he's on the organ. But yeah, it's just a memento of his love from Calypso. It's obviously imbued with some sort of magical power, though. Maybe it's because he was cursed, or not cursed, he was given this duty by Calypso. Maybe some of her magic was put into the locket as well.
Mm. Either way, once we retrieve it, it does open up the possibility for Calypso to strike the Spire again and destroying it more properly.
Yeah, it seems like it's weird that she knows where Davy Jones is at all times because she's Calypso, but she couldn't tell it was the locket until the chest was open.
Mm.
But then again, maybe in the films, when he puts his heart in a dead man's chest, it also locks him away from Calypso, so she doesn't know where he is because his heart's in there.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So maybe the actual chest has that property of hiding whatever's inside it from Calypso.
Yeah, I think that might be it. I indeed. So one thing that does baffle me about these tall tales is the ghost ships. Like it's so like like in the second tall tale, right? We go to the Black Pearl and we don't really rescue the Black Pearl, but we rescue the crew. And then in the final tall tale, the Black Pearl appears as a ghost ship, but once we defeat the ferry, the Flying Dutchman, the Black Pearl isn't the ghost ship anymore. It becomes the actual Black Pearl again. And how does that work? Like, why does that happen? Do you know that?
Oof, that's a really good one. So as far as I know, the Black Pearl at the end of the Tall Tale 5 is dredged up from the sea by the merfolk, or possibly Calypso, as the actual physical Black Pearl. But it's never explained that if a ship's on the bottom of the sea, how does it become ghost form? Because it's still in the Mermaid Kingdom, as far as we know. Well, sorry, the Siren Kingdom. But I guess if Jack's got some sort of control over the Sea of the Damned and he's sort of backed by the backed by the ferryman, he would be able to manifest a ghost ship. But again, the same could apply to the Black Witch, which is beached up on the on Shipwreck Bay, but that can be a ghost ship as well. So I don't know. I feel like they needed to explain that
Maybe
Tim's.
maybe when a ship isn't seaworthy anymore, it can become a ghost ship.
That could be the case. It would also explain why the burning blade's there and the
Hmm.
Ashen Dragon, because well, we don't know how the Ashen Dragon had sunk and become a ghost ship, but the burning blade is in pieces because the figurehead, sails, and cannons are scattered everywhere. Um, so maybe you're right. Maybe that when a ship is not seaworthy anymore, it can become a ghost ship.
It will make sense. We'll keep that in the back of the head and use it as a reference for going forward with potential other tall tales and stuff like that.
I think you're right with that one, and I quite like that explanation. To be fair, it just again, maybe they're saving that for a reveal because obviously there's a big story beat with Flameheart creating ghost ships. Maybe they're going to reveal how that happened later on and might give this some better context.
I indeed. We have some more thoughts about that too, about Flameheart, but we'll keep it when we get there.
Hmm.
Let's go to one of the questions from my subscribers, Benabel. He or she asks us, why does Pendragon choose to stay a ghost? As champion of souls, tasked with freeing trapped souls, wouldn't it make more sense for him to return to the living? What purpose could the champion of souls serve in the Sea of the Damned?
Mm.
That's a good one. I've been wondering that for myself. Like he could just go through the ferryman's door, like they're on good terms. He could be alive again, quote unquote, alive again. So why does he choose to stay a ghost?
Do you have any sort of angles on this one, or do you want me to go first?
Oh, you go first. Yeah, go for it.
I think when you're a ghost, you're not sort of bound by the realms of, or sorry, the laws of physics. like how he helped us open that door from the inside in Seabound Soul that no one would have ever got into. So being able to manifest yourself wherever you want across the Sea of Thieves is quite powerful, but also being the fact that he's a ghost means that he's technically invincible. I know you get the same result if you die and just come back from the ferry, but obviously you have to stay on the ferryman's good side with that one. It seems like they're setting this up for for Pendragon to help us in the future Tall Tales whenever they come out. And it's probably more useful that he is a champion of souls in the Sea of the Damned, because we're sort of doing his work anyway without him, defeating Ashen Lords and Skeleton Lords and what have you.
Yeah, that's how I look at it too. Like he has a lot of potential being a ghost, and not only him. Like there's other characters who choose to remain in ghost form. And I think if he needs to be, if his task is completed on the Sea of the Thieves, I think the option is still there for him to return to the world of the living, like fully 100%. And that's just an option. I think like he can totally do that if he wants to, but not yet.
It's almost as if it was implied as well that if he becomes human again, that he's going traveling with a black pearl. Same with Eli Slate, because Rose and George come back to life, so they can go traveling with the Pirates of the Caribbean characters.
Yeah, which is still weird because I feel a bit betrayed by those characters because they're so they're so big. Well, not big, but they're a part of the lore of the Sea of Thieves. And then in the third Tall Tale, you meet them in a tavern, and they kind of tell Jack like, no, it's the Sea of Thieves. That's that's what it's all about. And then two Tall Tales later, they're like, yeah, not really. Let's come back from that, and we'll travel with you.
Let's go to Tortuga. Plain old Tortuga with no magic, just drinking.
It kind of wraps up their story because I don't think there was any more story to George and Rose. Like it kind of wrapped up in the Shores of Gold Tall Tales, what very little part they had, and they made a little cameo, and now they're totally gone. I think the developers didn't have any more stories for them, so why not send them off? And I think that's the reason why they did that.
Maybe Rose is going to be the female protagonist of the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie, played by Karen Gillan.
Well, I wouldn't complain.
I think, yeah, obviously no Jack Sparrow in that one because of reasons.
Yeah,
Maybe Rose will be the main protagonist.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. So, an easy question: what happened to Davy Jones?
Oh, the ferryman explains this. He puts him in the brig of the Ferry of the Damned to punish him for eternity, so he can't get out. Obviously, we know that's not the safest place to put someone, considering how easily we broke in there with no knowledge or experience. But we trust the ferryman, I guess, who apparently can't leave the wheel of his ship, but appears on the Black Pearl.
I think you can fool him once with the Flame of Souls, but I don't think you can fool him twice of making the same mistake again. So I feel he's pretty safe locked up there.
He didn't even see us stow away until we put the Flame of Souls on the the Well of Fates, and he was like, "Oh, what? These people are alive? Oh, that explains why they're not green."
It's just funny. I think they also did this to wrap up Davy Jones, to write him out of the story. Do you agree with that?
Hopefully, yeah. I love the Tall Tales. It's just that I don't want any more because there can be too much of a good thing and you can ruin it. So yeah, hopefully no more Davy Jones. I know a lot of people in my community are like, oh, I can't wait to see what they do next with the Pirates of the Caribbean characters. I'm like, let's not do that. Please don't do that.
Again, we'll touch upon that in a moment. So another question from one of my subscribers, from Vlak: does the Dutchman need a captain if all the curses of the sea have been lifted? So for a little bit background information, in the fifth Pirates of the Caribbean movie, they destroyed the Trident, which basically means all the curses are lifted from that world. So why does the Dutchman still have a captain then?
So this is going to be some sort of mental gymnastics here, but I think it is the correct answer if if I do say so myself. So the curse of the Dutchman, like put curse in quotation marks there, is that was never a curse. It was a duty that was charged to Davy Jones, right? So Calypso gave him the duty to ferry those who died at sea to the afterlife. He was meant to look after them. This was a duty, not something that he was forced into. That's sort of the whole point of a curse. You don't really choose to take it on unless you're like Flameheart, the captain, or whatever. But when he chooses that duty and he does his 10 years and he comes to meet Calypso, the curse then arises from the fact that he stops doing his duty. It's a punishment for not ferrying the sailors to the Sea of the Damned in the Pirates of the Caribbean. So when the curse is broken, obviously Will Turner's curse is broken at that point. But just because the Dutchman always needs a captain, the curse of the Dutchman isn't that it needs a captain. Does that make sense to you? No?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
It's the way I see it, being bound to the Dutchman isn't a curse, it's a duty that someone has chosen to do. So if it always needs a captain, that's not a curse. The curse itself is turning into fish people if you don't do what you're told.
Hmm.
You're not convinced by that, are you?
No, I'm reading some messages in the Discord because again, like the members were having a discussion about this too. So Elvish says, for example, that Will was cursed to the ship itself, and the ship still needs to exist to ferry those souls. That's his explanation.
I suppose as well, like, if it breaks all the curses of the sea at that point, fine, fair enough. But if you go and do the same thing again that got you cursed, then the curse is going to still be there. It doesn't remove all curses or destroy all curses or prevent them. It just wipes them all in that current point. So, for example, if the gold hoarder got turned back into a human, and because he's still greedy, he goes and touches the cursed gold, he's going to get cursed again, isn't he? So I guess that's the same thing with the Dutchman.
All right. So you see it as a reset then.
Yeah, if Jones had said, "Oh, I've come back and now I'm bound to the Dutchman again," and did his duty, then he wouldn't be turned into the fish person.
Hmm.
Because you also see at the end of the film, the Dutchman turns back to normal. It looks like a normal ship without the all the barnacles and the sort of seaweed on the sails. It looks like a normal ship. So the curse does seem to be the sort of the sea consuming the Dutchman.
Yeah, or maybe they ignored the fifth movie altogether, and we don't need dumb explanations for this.
Well, they ruined the canon anyway by making Will Turner turn into a fish person because he was doing what he was told. So they obviously, they don't care for canon in Pirates of the Caribbean either. It seems.
All right. Oh well, I think you can have different explanations to get us to that point. In the end, I don't think it matters all that much.
Yeah, it's not something we should really think about. Like, I'm really bad for overthinking the lore, but um, this is going to sound mean, but when continuity is ignored, it's not our job to come up for a reason as to why that's happened.
Mm. Yeah, that is true. Like you see it a lot with certain franchises, like even with Star Wars or Game of Thrones. Like some things don't make sense, and then you see a lot of people trying to explain it. And should we have to? I mean, if the movie makes a mistake or the series makes a mistake, it's our job to fill in the gaps again.
Yeah, and the difference is like leaving negative space is a thing if you've left like good signposting, but if you completely ignore something or miss it, then it becomes an issue.
I It's almost like these tall tales were originally meant as something different.
Yeah, it's almost like it was adapted to fit the characters of another universe rather than using
Yes.
some
Hmm,
established characters in our
maybe.
universe.
Maybe we're almost there. We're almost there. One final question, and then we'll wrap this total five up. Question from Elwish. He asks us, "Who is the her that Jack made a promise to?" And he also wants to know. And in the Dark Brethren, Jack mentions Davy Jones was trusted with the treasure. So, do you know what he's talking about?
So one of my subscribers brought this up in my Discord. It was Pat actually, and he said that in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean novels, the only adult novel, I can't remember the name of it. He goes to this princess where he makes a promise to her, and that's the only sort of record in the lore that we have that Jack makes a promise. Basically, it's a prequel where Jack was working for the East India Trading Company, and he ends up going visiting this princess, makes a promise to her, goes off on his adventures, and obviously never keeps that promise. But I guess that's what this is referring to.
Hmm. All right, interesting. I didn't know that. How sure are you about this?
He was pretty sure, but I'm sort of like on the fence about it. That's not because I don't think it's a sound explanation for it. I just think it's very obscure because I didn't even know there was a Pirates of the Caribbean adult novel until he told me about it.
What does it mean, adult novel? Like there's nudity in
So
it?
no. So there's a lot of like books in the Pirates of the Caribbean universe that are aimed at kids, and they're like very simple storytelling. But this novel is aimed at adults and young adults. So, for example, like I don't know, the Halo novels would be aimed at adults, or the Gears of War novels would be. Um, Imagine if they did like the Halo coloring books would be aimed at kids. It's just think of it as a novel that's meant to be read by mature readers, but it's not got anything dirty in it. Does that make
All
sense?
right. No, 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 definitely. Yeah, yeah.
It's just that
No,
there's a lot of books in the Pirates of the Caribbean thing that are just solely for kids,
uh,
and that's the exception one, not the rule.
I didn't even know that.
Exactly. Nor did I until he told me.
All right. Well, I wish you have to do with that answer. Again, if some things like people can tell from listening to this podcast that not everything is as clear cut as we would like it to be. So if there's anything you know the definitive answer to, or think you know the definitive answer to it, please let us know in the comments. You'll be doing us a real big favor, and I'm really serious about this. Anything else you want to mention about the fifth tall tale before we wrap it up?
For all it's worth, I enjoyed the Tall Tale, but I do think it's the weakest of the five. Just purely based on what we discussed, really, on so many unanswered questions and loopholes almost, and yeah, like I said, not a bad Tall Tale at all. It's good for a final one, but I think we all finished it, didn't we? Our crew, and said, "Oh, that was the worst of the five."
Yeah, that's true. The only thing I still want to mention is that I think it is really cool that at the very end we are able to board the Black Pearl and actually have a look around. There's no action involved with it, but if you ever wanted to have a video game where you can explore the Black Pearl, limited as it is, it was really fun to do so.
Yeah, and it almost makes you think they're sort of. No, I'm not going to say it. They're not prototyping for a Man of War.
We can touch upon this because a lot of people saying, "Oh, look at all these new ship designs and all these weird shipwrecks, and oh, this is hints to a new ship model." But no, it's not. Like, don't get your hopes up, guys. Like, we're not gonna get another ship. No.
No, especially like not well. A, the Xbox One is supported. B, there's other things that need to come out, and C, it's a balancing nightmare. There's no way they could balance that.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe at the very end of the Xbox Series X lifespan or something like that. Maybe a game mode in arena. But definitely not soon at all. Nope. Nope. No. No.
Maybe they'll do it before they release Sea of Thieves 2, so no one can complain. Everyone's on the Sea of Thieves 2, and they're like, "Oh, can you balance the Man of War in Sea of Thieves 1?" And they're like, "No, we're not supporting the game anymore. Enjoy that. You got what you
Yeah.
asked for."
Yeah, like I'm still not convinced they're gonna do a Sea of Thieves 2 actually, and if they do, it's not gonna be rare, I think. But we'll leave that debate open. That's a whole different story.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that wraps up Telltale 5. Let's discuss something else because we'll be hinting at this for this entire podcast actually. You actually made a video about this, but it's also something that I have been spinning in my head for a while. Because I think it was last podcast, we were talking about maybe these tall tales were originally meant to not feature the Pirates of the Caribbean, which could be very well be the case. One big piece of evidence, I think, is when you told me about the artwork in the art book where there's artwork of the tavern, and the tavern we see in the tall tale number 3, but it's not Jack that's standing there in the middle; it's the pirate lord. And ever since you told me that, I was all right. So, what if we change the Pirate Lord instead of Jack in the story? Would it make sense? And I've actually been laying awake thinking about these possibilities, and I do think I'm pretty convinced that these 5 titles were meant to be a purely Sea of Thieves experience. So how do you feel about this?
Personally, I'm convinced because I convinced myself. Well, I made a whole video about how simply you can make a few changes and it makes sense, if not more sense, to the Sea of Thieves lore when you use the original characters. I don't
Mhm,
know, like I did ask the question as part of the giveaway. I tend to put like a almost thought provoking question about the topic of the video, so I get people's responses. People think it's just a way to drive comments. It's a good way to, don't get me wrong, but I actually get to see a consensus of different issues by forcing
mhm,
people to do that.
mhm,
And it seems it's like I think a lot of people think that they missed the point by saying that they haven't cancelled Flameheart's video because of what was said in the thumbnail. Um, Sorry, it cancelled Flameheart's story, but they sort of missed the point in the fact that they probably swapped it over. But a lot of people also did think, I think it's like 70-30 split, 70% saying that they think this was actually written fresh for Pirates of the
hmm,
Caribbean, and 30 think that it was Flameheart's story.
hmm.
Personally, I think there's more merit to say that these were adapted because there would have been a storyboard in place when this was being developed, and they thought, let's just use that.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of hints in the novel, and in both novels actually. There are hints to the Silver Blade. There's hints to Flameheart Junior, and all this stuff, and it fits with these tall tales, like the stuff we heard before, and with Wanda as well too. Like in the beginning, Wanda was working for. Oh, by the way, we see Flameheart is uh, instead of Davy Jones, by the way. So
Mm.
the Davy Jones character would have been Flameheart in this story, and it would make sense with Wanda too, because first she was allies with Flameheart, and then suddenly we have this one journal in the fourth title explaining us, nah, I kind of go for Davy Jones because I don't like Flameheart anymore, and that's on one hand that's really cool that a video game does that, and on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but that was probably not the original intent. Like it would have made, to me at least, more sense if she just stayed with Flameheart and supported him with taking over the Sea of the Damned, which is a very Flameheart thing to do, right?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I sort of get why Wanda would turn her back on him as per the journal, but like you brought it up that it was just written in a journal. That's like a massive story beat and should have been in the tall tale.
Mm.
And especially because it wasn't hinted at for what, over a year. Last time we see Wanda, she's with sorry, she's in the Heart of Fire watching Stitcher Jim get cursed. Then we don't see her for a year, and then it turns out, oh yeah, I don't really like Flamer anymore because he's nasty to me.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. The same with the Silver Blade too, right? Like the Silver Blade all of a sudden had a different crew, and that, again, that's also explained in the journal. Like this random other crew of pirates finds it floating about, and don't get me wrong, it's explained well, but the explanation would not have been necessary if it was integrated probably as intended. Because in the second telltale, we dive down to find the Black Pearl, but it could have easily been the Silver Blade there, you know? And the Silver Blade is there, but it's become this side story, which I think should have been the main story, finding the Silver Blade in Telltale 2.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to add another thing to the amount of evidence. The Silver Blade figurehead canonized and the Black Pearl figurehead are very, very similar in design. Um, so the Black Pearl is a woman holding a dove, I think it is, or whatever the bird's
Mhm,
meant to be. It could be a sparrow, I'm not sure. And the canonical Silver Blade figurehead is a woman releasing a dove while she's gripped by death, not the white eagle we see in the game. And
mhm.
they're really similar to the point where Falcor, in his analysis video, thought the Black Pearl was actually the Silver Blade in the trailer.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, because he brought it up himself. And he also brought up the fact that he was a bit upset that the Silver Blade was just relegated to. It was a bait and switch, basically, where, it's the Silver Blade, but nothing to do with Flameheart Jr.
Yeah, indeed. We do differ on our thoughts about the role of Flamar Junior, because in the novel, Flamar Junior is transformed into a skeleton. And I always thought that the cursed captain could have been Flamar Junior, obviously with different personalities and different goals. How do you feel about that?
I think the Curse Captain's just his own character and wasn't meant to be Flameheart Junior at all.
Mm,
Um, because obviously we thought the Silver Blade would be obviously down in the Siren Kingdom instead of the Black Pearl. His ship's the Golden Hare, and it would also in the sort of design of the level. Obviously, it would imply it'd have another ship, of course, but I also think that it was always meant to be the Curse Captain, the Golden Hair, and he was just going to be this comic relief character.
mm. Yeah, it could make sense. Yeah, I
His
mean, to
right,
go for it.
his writing is that well done that I don't think he was adapted. I think he was already planned to be in the game as himself.
Yeah, no, that could very well be. It's my weakest argument of the bunch. Um, if I'm being honest. So yeah, so how do we feel about this? Because we're both pretty confident that it was meant as a purely Sea of Thieves story, right?
Yeah, I'm 99% sure. To be honest with you, I'm that sure because even when you like sorry to go on. Even when you look at the Tales from the Sea of Thieves book, it talks about, or sorry, Rare said that there's events in that book that haven't happened yet. Whereas now, if you look at the book, everything would have happened because the
Yeah.
Silver Blade's been dredged up. Originally, Bell and Ninecat Nura were meant to find the chest in there that calls the Kraken and take it to the Merfolk. Well, the fact that it's already been dredged up and sunk in the Siren Kingdom, and that chest is nowhere to be seen on board, it obviously means that was now that was plans to be happening in the future because of a pirate's life. They've changed that now, and that's already happened, and they went back on their word. So, obviously people can forget things and make mistakes, but it just seems to me like this has definitely been adapted and then sort of recanonized some of the
Mm,
lore and sort of made it redundant as well.
yeah. No, yeah, I agree. What I do want to add to that is that I've told you before in private. I always felt that they had a plan B, like an abort plan, because working with Disney could go wrong. Disney could pull out for whatever reason. But still, all these assets they made, like making the Sea of the Damned a real place, making assets for the Siren Kingdom, making sirens, for example, all that stuff was probably already planned. And if Disney were to pull out, they could also always go back to their originally plan without wasting development time.
Yeah, absolutely. They could. It wouldn't be an easy swap. Don't get me wrong, but it'd be easier than starting again, wouldn't it? They could just swap the characters out.
Yeah.
Um, And something as well, these 5 Tall Tales got released as a wedge, and we didn't get so many for like a year. They
Mm.
could have released these like one per season or something like that. That could have been the original plan, or
Yeah.
once every 3 months.
Or
And
can you mention that like this Fort of Fortune together with one tall tale or maybe two tall tales, how much bigger season two would have been, right? That would more felt more like a season than just,
y-
you know, the Fort of Fortune.
yeah, like the way you could have just laid it out is, I sort of expected there wouldn't be any Tall Tales for the monthly updates because of COVID and what have you. Obviously,
Mhm.
they managed to make this under COVID, so that's quite impressive. I always thought season one would have had a Tall Tale, maybe two, and then season three would have had another one. Season two would have had another one. Season three another one, and season four, and then that would have been the story for the year. All 5 Tall Tales across 4 seasons. But obviously that wasn't the case, and they decided to release them as a wedge in season three, which hasn't been done since Anniversary and doesn't sort of match up with the cadence originally sort of set by Seabound Soul and Heart of
Yeah.
Fire.
Yep. That's true. That's correct. Makes me a little bit sad if I'm being honest.
It sort of echoes the thoughts I had with the trailer when I saw it. I was like, wow, this is really cool, but like, you had that awesome opening of the Coral Fortress, and then we go into the Sea of the Damned and stuff, and it's like, oh, yeah, we're getting Jack Sparrow. I couldn't help but feel like, oh, no Flameheart then? After
I
I've been waiting for a year, which is fine. That's not a patch on Pirate's Life. I always have to reiterate this because people conflate things wrongly, don't they? But Yeah, I would be lying if I said I wouldn't have preferred this if it was just Sea of Thieves characters.
I feel very conflicted now about these tall tales. I do like them; they're beautifully crafted. We meet some wonderful locales. The atmosphere is incredible, but I still it could have been so much more. And that's my assessment. Like I said in one of your comments, like it's not the update the game deserved, but the update that was commercially more viable.
Hmm. Yeah, that's completely fair. Rare's obviously increased their player base and made a lot of money from this. Microsoft would have paid a lot of money for the license, though, don't get me wrong. But now we're going to be heading into season 4 next month by my calculations. And, what's going to be the thing that smacks us in the face and say, you need to carry on with Sea of Thieves after those tall tales? Obviously, I really like to reiterate, I love the tall tales, but I'm not hating on the game. Don't worry.
No,
But
no.
I would prefer it if it was just Sea of Thieves characters.
It's also a legacy, right? I think we touched it on the last podcast too. Like, how are we going to look back, after it's all done and done, right? How are we going to look back at these tall tales? And I think bittersweet. I think we're going
Yeah,
to look back bittersweet. One other final thing. There's always a final thing. I did a poll actually on my YouTube, and I asked people like, "Hey, how do you feel now about these tall tales? Now that you've played them a couple of times?" Do you still feel the same way? And about 70% still felt the same way about them since the beginning, for better or worse. Which we could, reasonably say that's mainly positive, because I also did another poll asking them how they felt about it initially, and I think like 90% was very happy about it. And about 15% felt felt better about them now, and about 15% felt worse about them now. So I am in those 15% that feel they're a bit less now. So I think we are in the minority on that.
yeah, I agree. We definitely in the minority about that.
All right. So yes, so let's wrap it up. I've told you we're also going to discuss the other stuff in season 3, which isn't a lot, because the biggest additions were of course these tall tales. But the enemies from those tall tales, like the ocean crawlers, the sirens, and the ghosts, are also in the main game now. So how do you feel about that?
I'm really happy with these 3 AI additions. I feel like phantoms are a tougher version of skeletons that aren't as annoying or stupid. Um, no offense to whoever coded the skeletons, but they're not fun to fight. um, and the ocean crawlers are the best of the bunch. I really like fighting those because they all feel varied and different. I suppose apart from the crab guys, because they're just big skeletons really that do a lot of damage. Um, and the sirens are a nice change in pace as well for the water. With that being said, the spawn frequency has made me tired of them already. They spawn that much.
Yeah, I was meaning to ask you about that, because I've seen it a lot, by the way. Like, not a lot of people are happy with the spawn rate. I do agree with that. Initially, when I did my review about season 3, I was fine with it. But since then, I've gotten into situations where like a lot of ocean crawlers spawn, and it's just becomes too much to handle, especially if you're solo playing. I'm like, yeah, they need to dial it down a little bit. I also thought they were a bit too easy to kill, but I've come back from that. I think their health and their damage output is actually pretty spot on, what it needs to be.
Yeah,
And yeah, go for it.
no, I was just going to say, yeah.
All right. So I do want to say I like skeletons more now as well, because it's much more varied. So if I fight some ghosts and some ocean crawlers, and oh hey, look, there's some skellies there. Like, it doesn't feel repetitive anymore. It's like just one of several enemies you can defeat right now. So I do like that. I've come to appreciate skeletons more now.
Yeah, maybe it was a bit harsh in my assessment, but up until this point, skeletons have not been fun to fight. But the fact there's more variety now makes that the sort of simple AI of them a bit more pleasant to see because you don't see them all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If
No.
it's not oversaturated. And yeah, another thing I really want to touch on before we move on to the next
Hmm.
point. is that I really feel like the Fort of Fortune would have benefited from an update with some extra enemies instead of just skeletons. Whereas you could
Hmm.
have phantoms and ocean crawlers as well as skeletons spawn in the waves.
Yeah, I think you run into lore difficulties then because the skeleton forts were built by skeletons. So if you fight ghosts there that are also protecting the horde over there, or like the barnacle buddies, I don't think it will make sense lore wise.
But if these were originally intended to be for the Sea of Thieves characters, Flameheart's alliance with the Siren Queen would explain that.
Yeah, and that's why we don't have it.
Not for a gameplay reason, because that'd be hard to code. It's just it wouldn't affect the lore. We changed the lore, so they're not going to be in that.
I mean that, to be honest, that's what I appreciate about Sea of Thieves, because every little gameplay addition has a lore explanation to it. Like even something as mundane as pets, or the Ashen pets. Like there is a story why they're cursed, and I like that. Like what other game company is so vigilant with making it all fit?
New and interesting ways, mate. That's how they
I
implement things.
um, the sirens, going back to the sirens, influence certain sneaky strategies. Like normally, if you want, you could swim from one island to the next island where there's a ship part. Nowadays, it's a bit harder because if the sirens spawn, you might die before you get there. So, how do you feel about that?
I've I like the fact that tucking's not as popular anymore, and I've never been tucked on properly before, so maybe that's why I don't have a sort of I don't care about it. But the fact that the waters are more treacherous is sort of a nice thing, but it's not nice when you fall off the ship at an outpost and the sirens spawn immediately. There needs to be a balance here. Yeah, the spawn rate needs to go down, but I really don't care that people's tuck plays are being ruined.
Yeah, it's fine, I guess. Just take a rowboat. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's the best way to tuck anyway. Use a rowboat that you don't have to risk wasting your food by swimming like for 20 minutes. And like the time we saw the guy at the at Discovery Ridge, we saw his mermaid pop up at Discovery Ridge, and we just waited for him to swim over, and we shot him in the water.
I
Like the sirens aren't going to affect that. It's your mermaid that you need to worry about.
That's true. That's true. And sometimes it helps too, by the way, because I've been trying to board people, and then the sirens, they see me, and then other people, they will spot me as well because obviously they spot me. Then they jump in the water, but I get out and they get slaughtered by the sirens. So that's fun. I like that.
The old bait and switch.
Indeed. So it just changes the meta and opens up new possibilities. And I have to say, I do like the animation on the sirens. That's whoever did that. That's a really great job.
Now all we need is a reskin of sharks to hammerheads, and the sea life will be good to go.
Oh yes. Oh, I've been wanting that for so long.
Even just reskins of different shark types, just a bigger shark, great white. The current one's like a bull shark, and then we have a hammerhead that's more rare but got more health. Just do that. Just use the same AI and reskin them.
I and maybe make it drop a loot if you do encounter a hammerhead shark. It could have swallowed the goblet or something like that.
Yeah, or put a gem in his chest.
I So moving on from the new enemy additions, we also have a new weapon, which is a Trident of Dark Tides.
It's the best tool they've added, in my opinion. It's actually useful, unlike the Ashen Wind Skull. It's an absolute beast for PvE, and I hope it doesn't get nerfed. PvP is okay. It's quite good for repelling borders if you charge it up and shoot at someone who's getting on the ladder. But other than that, it's just a solid addition to the game. It's fun to use. It feels different. It looks good. The animations are good. Yeah, there's not really much else to say about this. This was a great addition.
Yeah, I do like the spawn rate of it. Like you get it when you defeat a skeleton ship, or you may find it in a shipwreck or in a vault. Like they're everywhere. Like when you start playing, it won't be long before you encounter Trident. So I do really like the spawn rate of this thing. And like you said, the PVE, it's perfect. Like it melts megalodons, especially if you're slooping. You can kill an entire megalodon just with the Trident, which we have done in the past, and it's amazing. Ashen Winds event, same thing. Everybody gets a Trident, and you can melt the Ashen Lord in a couple of minutes, and it's not even exaggerating. In a couple of minutes, all the phases you're done, all thanks to this amazing weapon. So definitely use it in PvE. That's definitely my advice.
I definitely feel like this is the best way to expand the sandbox by having tools that you can find. Ashen Wind was, yeah, you can melt skeletons, which are really easy, but it's terrible for PvP.
Mhm.
And it's really rare as well for how bad it is. Whereas the Trident struck that balance nicely. But how about in the future we get a bit more of this, like, I don't know, boarding axes you can find, or like or elephant guns that you could one shot people, but they've only got 5 shots in them and they're really heavy to handle, or a hook shot, things like that that you have to find out rather than start with is a good way to balance things out without adding another sort of weapon you have to carry and balance around the 4 arguably unbalanced weapons.
Yeah, would certainly be nice. Let's hope we get some more interesting new ways to kill each other.
I'm happy about that. Anything that adds to the PvP and fighting and weapons, I'm happy about that.
All right. So another thing you're quite happy about is all these new events, right?
I feel like we've miscommunicated. Joking. He's just winding me up. I am not happy about these events at all. Again, it's been the way since the start of the year, though. To be honest, isn't it?
So to give a bit of context, we have 2 events so far in season 3. Maybe there will be a third one, but I don't think so. The first one was a flex of friendship, where we needed to be nice and share treasure or give away treasure. Actually, I don't really like these events, but I guess it was good because it was right after the introduction of these new tall tales, which obviously brought new players in, and it's always nice for those new players to relax and get some treasure and see the other side of Sea of Thieves, where it's not just sinking people on sight. And the one I think we're still experiencing right now is the Plunder Games event, where we basically doing same stuff we always done, only there's no difference. There's no difference. Only it's in a different layout now, I guess, and we get some more gold for it. So you're not a fan, right?
I'm not a fan of any events, to be honest with you. It's just flags of friendship make sense, absolutely, in the context of a pirate's life. It's for new players, again, just like all the events are for new players, new players, new players. Where's the Pirate Legend update? New players. It's just flags of friendship was good because it gave you good rewards and was good for the new people. It's not good for us. Whereas Plunder Games was just a time with the Olympics and we got gold and we just doing stuff that we always do. Like, I think Rare needs to stop looking at these events as something that needs to come out to pad out seasons because they don't pad out seasons.
Mhm.
The only thing that pads out seasons is the Emporium update, some new recolors, and some bug fixes. And we don't get anything really. I'm not even going to count the events we've had because it's just stuff we've already been doing for years and months or what have you. They need to step back and say, okay, we're not doing events for a while. We need to reassess these. And it's hard to get an event out every month to 6 weeks that actually feels new. Don't get me wrong. I'm not asking for that, but I think what they should do is that at the halfway point of a season, they should have something like a build rat adventure,
Mhm.
just to sort of coincide with it. Because it looks like we're down to one Emporium refresh halfway through, and then we have to wait, which is fine. The Emporium is obviously quite a lot, being updated every month, but when you go, oh yeah, we've got flags of friendship or plunder games where you just get gold. It's a
Mm.
bit like, oh, just wait for the next season. We only do them because we're completionists and we don't want to miss out. But with plunder games, there's no incentive because it's just gold, and I can just get that just from playing the game normally.
Yeah, that's true. And that's how I feel about these events too. Like if it's something that I slightly have to go out of my way, like, oh, make sure you kill an Ashen Lord this month. I'm like, sure, that will happen anyways, right? And if we see an Ashen Winds event, we can say, oh, let's do this event real quick. But with the Plunder Games, it's like, oh, light the beacon and ring the bell. And like, yeah, but that's so specific. That's not even fun to do. Like we're not gonna ring the bell. We've already done that, I think, twice or 3 times already for an achievement or accommodation or whatever. And I'm sick of those events, right? If I need to go too much out of my way, it just becomes a chore or something I need to do to take off the box. But if it's something that will happen naturally or I need to go slightly out of my way, I'm a bit more positive about these events.
Yeah, I think the best way I sort of describe them is that when Build Rat Adventures came out, I really didn't like them because we were waiting ages for updates, and I was quite vocal about that in my sort of Sea of Thieves infancy.
Hmm.
But looking back, Build Rat's adventures for the most part were really good up until you had the sort of mercenary voyages. So we got new mechanics in all of them, like skeleton thrones, as just sitting on thrones as it was still fun and it got us to do things. Siren statues was another one, or mermaid statues as it was called. Um, Flames of Fate was another one as well in Festival of the Damned. Um, You've got Curse Crews as well, which added the Curse Cannibals. Like they all added something to play with. And now when we get events which are more frequent, in fact less frequent, and not as good between these content updates, that was the sort of same cadence as year one. It really doesn't make sense as to why we're even bothering. Like it's better to either stop doing the events and look back at how can we improve them, or just not do them and use them to improve something else in the seasons themselves.
I indeed. On the other side, and I do need to defend the developers a little bit for this because we're day one players, right? And we've been doing all these events over and over again, so naturally we're sick of them. But for a lot of new players, it's going to be their first time, and it's a great no, like ringing the bell. Like a lot of people don't even know there's a bell in the middle of the map, for example. And those players will discover that for the first time, sorry, and then they see this little parkour area, and they're like, "Oh, we can do this little parkour area," and then they have this new fun experience that they wouldn't have had otherwise if that event wasn't there. So I do believe these events are still really, really nice for new players.
I'm going to bring a counterpoint up to this because I have to.
Please do, please do, no, please do.
So anything added for new players just benefits new players, right?
Yes.
But if you add something for all players, including new players who've never done it before, everyone gets the benefit of it. So something like the Plunder Games would be a better thing to be a permanent event that gets added as a set of challenges that old players can repeat, fair enough, but it stays there forever as a set of commendations that new players can experience whenever they come into the game. That's a good way to create longevity by adding certain events, almost like how you've got the commendation tabs for like Ashen Winds and things like that. But if you added something new for everyone, like a new toy to play with or a new cursed chest, new players are still experiencing that, but old players get to enjoy it as well. And eventually, those new players that experienced, I don't know, Plunder Games are going to be experiencing it next year when it's reskinned for another set of objectives or what have you. And you just get sort of caught in a vicious cycle. That's the way I look at it.
No, that's a good counter argument for sure. So to wrap it up, anything else you want to add about season 3?
Yeah, quickly about the Plunder Pass and the season pass itself. Plunder Pass was a really big improvement because all the items were new and not exclusive because they'll probably be in the store in the future. But they're all new. I don't really like them myself, but they're new, so that's what we wanted. And with the season pass again, it's too short and it still needs improving on what actual content's in there. It's still too fragmented. It's better, don't get me wrong. And another thing is when you're 3 days into a season, as many people are, and you finish the season pass and there's nothing to work towards for the rest of the 3 months, they need to add like an infinite tier where you get golden doubloons at least. I remember Gears 5 did this where if you reach the max tier, you just have infinite smaller tiers to go on. They give you coins to spend in the store, or on cosmetics or what have you. And I think Sea of Thieves needs to add like a Legends tier where you just carry on going infinitely, and each time you get like 5k gold and 30 doubloons or something like that.
Yeah, totally agree with what you just said. So, as a whole, how do you feel about season 3?
It's the best season so far.
Uh,
we just talk about how the game would have been better if it was just Pirates of the
mm,
Caribbean stuff, and the events aren't very good, and the enemies spawn a bit frequently, and there's nothing to do afterwards. But it's still the best season going.
yeah, again, I totally agree. I have nothing to add to that. So before we close the podcast, there are still some questions from more subscribers. I couldn't really put them in other categories, so we'll quickly go over them before we close it down. So the first question that still needs answering is from Cursed. I would be interested in knowing your thoughts on using the new Telltale servers to server hop. And for those who aren't in the know, if you go to the portal and you exit it again, you are in a totally new server with new ships, new events up. So to do it quickly, you vote for a Telltale that gets you through a portal, and as soon as you go through the portal, you vote that quest away, and boom, you are in a new server, and that's how you quickly can server hop while still maintaining your ship. So, how do we feel about this? How do you feel about that?
You go first on this one because I always go first. I want to hear your point on this. I think I'm going to agree with you anyway, to be honest.
All right. Well, I'm sure people like the initial reaction, like, oh, the initial impression is, oh, that's not fair because you have a stock ship, or you could be in the Reaper Emissary 5 in a new server, and like, yeah, but the same thing happens when there's a server merge, and the same thing happens when you load into a server. You don't know what's there. I'm totally fine by that if people use it. The only thing I don't agree with is if you use it to run away. It's the same with the Shroud Breaker, right? People use the Shroud Breaker to go into the Shroud to run away from pursuers, which is lame, and you suck if you do this. Like, I have the Telltale on my quest line, like in my inventory, to vote for the Shroud Breaker to chase other people, not to flee. I only use it to chase other people if they are being lame. And the same goes for the server, right? Like if the server is empty or there's an event that you don't want to do, like a Fort of Fortune, for example. Maybe we should have done that on the stream, by the way. You can you can quickly go to a new server with an event you do want to do. So yeah, just if you want to switch, it's fine. Just don't use it to run away.
Yeah, I agree. Rare have said it's the same. It's not an exploit; it's a feature. So if you're on a server just enjoying yourself in an alliance server, or you're stacking and it's a quiet server, and then you see a Reaper 5 just appear on there, sorry, but that's how the game's meant to be played. You never know what you're going to get, as we found out in Gold Rush.
I
But
Oh,
yeah, like
that's a good plug, by the way, because we've been hinting at the stream. But we were on the official stream of Sea of Thieves, by the way, not that long ago, and you can still watch the recorded video of that on the official stream. It was the Monday.
Monday the 4th, was it? No, second Monday the 2nd.
Monday 2nd. That's when we appeared on the official stream. So do check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check that out. We did awfully. I think we're bottom of the table still after this video going up. But
that's not how you get traffic.
we had some good PvP, and it was quite funny, to be fair. There was a lot of things that went wrong, and a lot of sort of comedic timings going on there with our server and stuff. Absolutely go check it out, because I had an absolute blast being on there, and obviously joined by Captain Blubber as well. It just made it 10 times more fun.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. So check it out if you want to have a laugh.
Back from the plug. Yeah, so server hopping's fine with these portals. They're meant to be like that. Rare have said as much. Like I said, like Blubber said, don't use it to run away, because it's just, I don't know, like, you can run in Sea of Thieves, don't get me wrong, but just hopping server just to keep your level 5 flag or what have you is just play the game how you want, but people will judge you harshly if you do something like that.
Next question comes from HGM Jammed, a long-time subscriber. He asks us, should there be more PvP balances in the future? He feels like the sword luck is a bit overpowered, especially if you're getting sword spammed by 4 people at once. So that is an issue, by the way. Like sword spamming it can happen, and it's like a low skill thing that can get you a victory. I don't really know how to feel about this, actually. I think you can take this first.
I'm fed up about talking about balance in Sea of Thieves, because obviously, no offense to the commenter here, this nothing to do with SJM here. It's not his comment here, but the rhetoric is that, oh, the sword's overpowered because it takes no skill, or oh, sniper's overpowered, double gunning's overpowered. Like, just shut up. Like, a lot of the people who complain about the other weapons in the game tend to use the opposite, basically. So like, I could say, oh, I feel like double gunning is overpowered because you can shoot people, quick succession, and they can only survive if they've got like a pineapple to eat. With that being said, with the sword lock, it is really annoying trying to eat something and you get stunned by the sword. It gives you that stupid screen shake effect and it stops you from eating food and it delays your thing. I agree with this one. As much as I just had a rant about people talking about balance, the sword is fine as it is because in this case you could get shot by 4 people at once and they don't even have to go near you. You see it all the time, like someone climbs up a ladder, they get shot by a pistol and then hit in the face with a blunderbomb. No chance at all. But when I'm trying to eat or run, I shouldn't be stunned from trying to get away from someone, especially in Sea of Thieves. That with the weapons, if you move faster forward than you do backward. So if you're trying to move away from someone with a sword eating, they move faster than you walking towards you, and I feel like that should be changed. But yeah, it's really annoying when you try to eat something and you jump off a ship and you get hit by someone's sword in midair, and it stops you from eating. So I agree they should get rid of that stupid sword lock thing. But as it stands, like the sword's damage should be fine. And hit rate is a big reason as to why it feels really powerful as well, because you get hit from miles away.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy with all these additions because for me the meta just shifts, right? Like now there's this thing, the sword lock, that's pretty annoying. And if people are standing at the at the ladder with a lot of swords, you know what's going to happen. And just plan for that. That's how I see it. Just get some blunderbombs or avoid people that, if they have 2 cutlasses, try to separate them. Like I change my game depending on what the current meta is, and that's how I deal with it. And I don't really get all that mad if I get sword stunned. It's more like, all right, should have planned for that. That's how I see it.
Big reason as well you find a lot of non-sword users get frustrated by this is because the only way really to counter a sword properly is keep your distance. And like I said, you can't because you walk faster forward than you do backwards, like in real life, I guess. But the best way to counter a sword is use a sword because the mobility affords you. Like the amount of people that don't know that you can sword hop through another person and get behind them.
Mhm.
A lot of these low skill sword spammers will just get run circles around. I don't know, maybe I'm seeing it through the lens of someone who uses the sword all the time. But
Yeah, but that
yeah, like,
sword hopping is a really good tip, by the way. Like just block and jump forward, and you're behind him. It's really nice to do.
yeah, and if someone blocks, like if you're one of the sort of 20% of sword users that knows how to block, you can just jump around them and over them. Like yeah, I think thinking about it more now, the sword spamming is really annoying, but it's like I think another thing that really frustrates me about sword spamming is that when you get caught in a melee with someone and you hit them and you get hit marker, but they knock through your combo and you shouldn't be rewarded for something like that.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So when you're trading blows with someone with a sword,
Yeah.
the typical M1 or RT if you use controller, you can block all 3 of their
Hmm.
strikes and then go
Hmm.
to hit them. You hit them, but for some reason they can carry on their combo and attack you still, and then you get locked. Whereas if you block someone and you strike first, they should be unable to hit you back.
Mm. I
It's all to
feel
do with
if
like latency and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I feel it was better. I don't know, like a year and a half ago, where you could, block everything, and then you have an opportunity to hit them without them hitting you back. It was way more consistent back in the day.
I feel like they should have a parry system where if you block just as someone strikes you, they get knocked back straight away.
Hmm. Maybe.
But yeah, I think it's a tough one, but I think they should get rid of that stupid effect stun.
I Yeah. Maybe
Sorry,
maybe they will. If enough people complain about it, they will think it over. I do believe they do that.
you never know. When we get a hit reg patch eventually, it might make all the weapons feel a bit better and more balanced because that certainly doesn't help. But another quick one I just wanted to mention in the topic of balance. Your health should update in real time, and it's really frustrating that you eat something and get shot, and then your health goes up and then down again, and it's really hard to keep track of what your actual
Mm.
health is. And food red is another one where you cancel the food on like the last frame and it doesn't work, and then you don't even realize like these things sort of need to be addressed because a lot of the sort of PvP community in general are up in arms about these things, rightfully so.
Yep.
And I think we should get after this season, we should be looking at improving the day-to-day gameplay with certain fixes.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, totally agree
And
with that.
captaincy update as well. We can add that as well while we're here.
And hammerhead sharks and hippos, and we
And
can go
hippos,
on and
and
on.
crab pets, and another weapon, and the
Giant
rest
enemy
of the
crab.
Burning Blade
Don't
set,
forget
Jade Dragon set.
Bring back the old Sea of Thieves controllers too.
Yeah, and make some
But
new ones, Reach the Factions, and Sea of Thieves, Tall Tales, and Flameheart, and Flameheart Junior, and more books as well. We can have those. Sorry, you were saying?
It's fine. We want a lot of stuff. It's always the same things that keep coming back. So that's good. At least we're not complaining about getting science in the game, so that's good.
Yeah,
We have that.
we finally got sirens after Duke's been teasing us for 6 months.
Indeed. So we have a final question, and we are going to do this a lot because, again, every time you're on the podcast, we're doing overtime, which is fine. But the last time we answered this question, we actually had a discussion about 30 minutes of it, and that's why I cut it from the previous podcast. So we're going to try again, and we're also going to try to make it as quickly as possible. So the final question is from Banabel, and he asks us, what's up with the Kraken's eyes? And there needs to be a little bit of context here, because in the novel, the Kraken gets hit with, I think, a bowsprit, and when it loses or actually damages one of the eyes pretty severely. However, in Tall Tale 2, we see the Kraken again, and supposedly there is only one Kraken right now in the game, but both of those eyes are perfectly fine. So what's up with that?
You're thinking, just please make it hurry up. Please make it fast, Ray. It's really difficult to discuss this one because in the novel, from what I can remember, the Kraken's discussed as having one eye anyway. And we see this Kraken in Tall Tale 2, and it's got two normal eyes. It's scarred like it's described in the book, but it's got two normal eyes, which sort of hints the fact that it's two different Krakens. But as far as I'm concerned, in the lore, there's only one left at all. So as much as it's a nice theory for me, I think it's just a really an easily done oversight because it's a bit of obscure knowledge from the book.
Yeah, that's how we see it too, because there's so many sources that tell of only one Kraken in the Sea of Thieves. Even the developers, like the Kraken has a name, right? Like it's named Karen. There's only one Kraken in the game. It's only meant to be one Kraken in the game. There used to be more, but right now there's only one. So that's the question behind the question of Banabel. Obviously, like, is it one or multiple Krakens? And I think from all the sources we can tell, there is one. Play the game with the knowledge in your head as if there was only one. I think that's the best way to go about it.
I agree. It's a shame because it's a detail that he's obviously, or she's obviously, picked up on, and we unfortunately have to explain it again, as we mentioned earlier, as someone's overlooked the continuity here.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, still a good spot of Banabel.
Yeah, really, really well done on that one. I missed that.
All right. So I think with the answering of the final question, we also come to the end of this episode. I hope you guys liked listening to 3 episodes discussing these new Tall Tales. We certainly had fun discussing all of this. So please let us know how you feel about this season 3 and the Tall Tales in the comments. So please let us know. And also remember to join the Discord. A link to the Discord will be in the description. And I want to thank, obviously, AShinyRay for being awesome again. And can you tell our listeners where they can find your content?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. So you can find me on YouTube at AShinyRay. Just search my name on there. I'm sure YouTube will do its business. And yeah, I do lore videos, discussions, update ideas. There's something for everyone. As I always say, if you like Blubber's content, you'll like mine. It's more frequent than his. Just maybe it's getting just as good as his now, but you be the judge of that.
I think, especially your recent videos were pretty good, man. I enjoyed them. So definitely check him out, leave him a like. Also, don't forget to leave a like in this video. Do something daring. Steal some treasure, drink some grog, and take care. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Take care. One day we'll do a podcast that's actually on time.